Right now, right now. 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 Oh, I got a real good feeling.
We try to bring you high-quality educational and informational content every single day. Why do you think the price is having such an anemic time? The news story of the hour. Jump onto the chart. Is this the beginning of a massive financial unraveling? We've got to add a little addendum to the show map today. So we start here on the daily. Now, we've been looking at the RSI on Bitcoin's daily chart for the last several days. It always has been, but it's been increasing over the last 50 years since it was out. The government has been Hey guys, what's going on? Jebb here, and welcome back to Coffee and Crypto. This is your week daily morning show where we go live 10 a.m. Eastern every single weekday to bring you the latest in Bitcoin and cryptocurrency, technical, on-chain, and fundamental analysis to make sure you guys are caught up to speed with what's going on, not only on the fundamentals, but also, of course, on the charts. I am your technical analyst, Crypto Jebb. If you are new here, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you will be notified every single time that we go live. Hit that post notification bell also so you'll be notified every single time that we go live. Like I said, guys, we are going to be diving deep into some technical analysis today on Bitcoin because there are a multitude of reasons to believe that Bitcoin actually could be starting a drop back down to nearly $12,500. In fact, the price target we're looking at today is potentially $12,470, and we're going to break down exactly why that is in the cards in the first place. Now, let's back up because I know I'm going to get this question in this stream at some point from someone. So if you see somebody asking this, or if you're asking this, direct them back to the first 3 minutes of this stream, because I'm going to address this right now. Yesterday, we talked about a $200,000 price target by the end of 2025. Today, I'm talking about how in the next week and a half to 3 weeks, we could see Bitcoin drop $4,000 down to $12,470. Someone, I can almost guarantee you, is going to ask in this stream, but Jebb, yesterday you said that Bitcoin was going to 200K. Now you're saying it's going down by $4,000. Which is it? Make up your mind. Well, if you watched yesterday's stream, in that stream I talked about how Bitcoin could first go down to $12,000 and change, and that's what we're talking about today. You can be bullish on the long term or bearish on the long term, and then inversely, you can be bearish or bullish on the short term. Just because we're bullish on the long term doesn't mean we're bullish on the short term. And even if we were bearish in the long term, which I've never have been, that doesn't mean that you can't be bullish on the short term. I firmly believe that we're going to have a massive bull market form in the next 12 to 18 months. However, I am not totally convinced that the bottom is in. I don't know whether or not it is, but we're going to be looking at this technical indicator and multiple different chart formations that indicate we could have another leg to the downside, which could start as early as today. So if that does occur, not when, but if that break to the downside does occur, I want you to be prepared for it, not only mentally and psychologically, but also so that if you were a trader, you are set up in such a way that you can trade that breakout. Because, of course, just because we're in a bear market doesn't mean that there aren't profits to be made. But let's go ahead and read some chat. We have got to go ahead and give a shout out to Oh My what? Oh my gosh. Oh my goodness. Oh my hi, said hashtag FinSov. He said hi, hashtag FinSov. Guys, if you guys don't know what FinSov is, that is the vision of what we are doing here. I have a vision of you guys achieving something that I like to call financial sovereignty. Essentially what FinSov is the concept of having total and complete control and authority over your financial picture and financial situation, where nobody is able to come in and tell you what to do with your money, because I believe that we are stewards of our finances before God, and we need to be able to be accountable to our own finances so that we have the full discretion to surrender them to our Lord. That's what I believe. Even if you're not a Christian, that's, that it's still the concept of having total and complete control over your own finances, where the government can't come in and inflate your currency, where the banks can't come in and shut down your accounts and steal your money, where exchanges shouldn't be able to go offline and lose all your money. I want you to be in a financially sovereign position so that you are safe, secure, and in control of your finances, ready to push into the future for the betterment of your family. Rock and Metal News also in chat said, hey guys, Oh My said, good morning. Crypto Nebs 83 were Crypto Nebs 1 through 82 taken. I'm sorry, I had to. It's an old joke. Hey Jebb, appreciate you. God bless. Hope Sarah is well. Yes, Sarah is doing a little bit better, but of course, you know, there's always going to be difficulty during pregnancy with that. We actually have an ultrasound today. We're gonna go get a picture, if you will, of our daughter. We are 20 weeks and 5 days today. We'll be 21 weeks on Thursday, so we're really looking forward to that. Haven't had an ultrasound in about a month and a half or so. They do it every month and a half or so. So I'm really excited to see the change. You can feel her kicking now. I got to feel our daughter kick for the first time on Thanksgiving Day, which was really cool because that's actually a day I can remember in my head. So that was really exciting. She's going to be here in April. Anyway, Edsel in chat. Grand Roofing Incorporated is in chat. Michael Lowry in chat said, good morning, everybody. Hashtag FinSolve. Absolutely. We got Crypto Ben Franklin, Grand Roofing Incorporated again. He said, just checking in real quick, pulled up to my next stop. I will be missing in action for a few on this death trap of a roof. Yeah, be careful up there, my friend. You definitely have a very important but compromised job. Christopher McFarlane in chat. Haven't seen you in a while. Justin Eubanks in chat. Bootsy said, hey, Jebb, what's going on? What's going on, man? Hey, guys, what's going on? Jebb here. Matt C is in chat. Crypto Sec Guy in chat. Joffrey. We got everybody in here. Crypto Smitty, Justin Eubanks, Crypto Mini Bike. You said, good morning from Leavenworth, Washington. Absolutely gorgeous up there. I'd love to visit up there sometime. MMM Star said, Jebb, I missed listening to you. Well, I'm here. I'm here, and we've got a lot to cover today. All right, let's see. Did I get all of the green names? I think I did, all the green names and mods. Really appreciate all of you guys tuning in, but it is time for the one and only must watch. Nothing changed. He hasn't tweeted since the last stream. I mean, he tweeted, he said this. He said, so many interesting posts on Twitter these days. True. A little boring. I guess the only main thing to update you here is that he passed 120 million followers. Congrats, Elon. You've got over half of your own platform following you. You got 250 million people on the platform, and half of them follow you. That definitely goes to show you that the @Elon Musk account is quite a bit more important, if you will, than the @Twitter account, which used to be real important. They haven't tweeted since October 13th. I guess Twitter has shut down since Elon Musk came in, or at least the Twitter account, the Twitter account has anyway. But that's not the only thing I want to cover here at the very beginning. I also do want to cover this. Ukraine drone strikes hit Russia as Zelensky travels east. I'm going to kind of TLDR this article, but essentially there have been some explosions in Russia, and they were done by drone strikes. Now, Ukraine has not actually taken, they've not actually taken responsibility for these attacks in the same way that they did not take responsibility for the Kerch Strait Bridge attack on that rail bridge several months ago, which was an incredibly important piece of key infrastructure that got knocked out, stopping rail shipments to the Kherson region, which had a large part to do with the failure of Kherson under the Russian occupiers. But this is a pretty big deal because this is the first time that the drone strikes started yesterday. There were 2 of them on 2 military air bases. One of the air bases was just about 200 miles outside of Moscow. And then it seems like there were 2 more drone strikes today. And you got some snarky people over in the Ukrainian armed forces but one of their people here, presidential advisor Mikhail Podolyak, I think, taunted Moscow in comments on Twitter. If something is launched into other countries' airspaces, sooner or later, unknown flying objects will return to the point of departure, he wrote. The Earth is round. So, yeah, looks like Ukraine is retaliating in Russia. And the reason that's so important is because, and by the way, let's just remember, why are we talking about Ukraine so much on this channel? The Russia-Ukraine war is the most important geopolitical factor in the entire geopolitical stage right now, and is setting the tone for monetary policy the world over. The way the monetary policy in the United States, in Europe, in the ECB, in the United Kingdom, which we're going to talk about in a second, is set, has a huge impact on Bitcoin. So the Russia-Ukraine conflict, directly in some small ways, but indirectly in extremely large ways, has a major impact on Bitcoin. When there's this much FUD geopolitically, it's very difficult to get a speculative asset like Bitcoin to rally because all of the hedge funds, all of the the sovereign wealth management funds, all the pension plans, all the big money players, I'm talking trillion-dollar players, are most interested in conservation. They're most interested in being conservative with their money because there's so much FUD and hiccup in the supply chain around the world. And so they don't want to invest in highly speculative assets, at least in their mind, it's a highly speculative asset, Bitcoin, when there's not a global conflict, but when there's a conflict going on regionally that has brought in the entire world economically into that conflict. It's an economic battle, as we talked about yesterday. What goes on in Ukraine has a direct impact on Bitcoin because it has a huge impact on sovereign monetary policy, like the effective federal funds rate in the United States. It has to do with CPI data because it is impacting inflation in Europe and in the United States based on oil and gas exports and other resource exports. And it's also having a lot to do with the uncertainty that people are feeling in the broader geopolitical space, which leads to them being apprehensive of investing in the cryptocurrency market. So this is a very important conflict to you and your investment portfolio, and you need to be following it, which is why we are talking about it. Now, the thing I want to mention here, and then we're going to move on because this is a very important story, but it's not the point of today's stream. The reason that this is important is because this is the first time that Ukraine has actually made strikes inside of Russia. Russia has an article in basically their nuclear doctrine, which states that their nuclear weapons will only be used in the defense of their own sovereign territory, which is why them annexing the 4 territories about 2 months ago or so was so important, because there was speculation of whether or not they would use nuclear weapons to defend that territory, since according to Russian law, Donetsk, Luhansk, Zaporizhia, and Kherson, those regions are now part of Russia, according to Russia. And so it's Crimea, according to Russia, not according to the world geopolitical, the global community, but according to Russia, they're sovereign territory of Russia. They're not, but that's what Russia claims. Would they use nuclear weapons? We don't know. But we do know that the territory right outside of Moscow certainly is Russia. So the question becomes, what kind of escalation could this lead to? I don't think it would lead to a nuclear escalation, but it may lead to NATO wanting to distance themselves a little bit more from Ukraine because they're worried about escalation that Ukraine could be causing by striking within inside of Russia. So we're going to keep an eye on this story as it's developing. Of course, all war is horrible, and we don't want it to continue. I'm praying that this war will end right now, immediately, that no one else will get hurt, that everybody will lay down their arms, and there'll be a peaceful, amicable, holy, godly solution to this conflict. Unfortunately, we live in the real world, and that's probably not going to happen, but that would be my prayer. So I'm definitely not glorifying the war in any way, shape, or form, but it is important that you, as a citizen of the world, know at least somewhat what's going on. But let's go ahead and jump back into crypto, because that's where we really want to put a lot of our attention. Today, we're going to be talking about a very specific chart formation over on Bitcoin. On the 4-hourly chart, you can see that there is this rising wedge that has formed here on Bitcoin. And that's funny. This is set to a heart formation. I can just put I guess that's our new chart formation right here, is the heart. There we go. You can see that I heart Bitcoin, but this rising wedge does not heart the bulls, because if this rising trading wedge does break in the direction that it's likely to, it will result in a break to the downside. And the fact of the matter is that rising wedges typically break to the downside for 70% of the time, whereas breaking to the upside 30% of the time. So when you have a rising wedge like this, 30% of the time you're going to see a break up, 30% of the time you're going to see a break, 70% of the time you're going to see a break down. The way that you draw the price target on this is by drawing the flag, and then this is almost like a bear pennant that's turned on its side, as if you were to pivot the whole thing around this point of axis, because a real bear pennant would look like this. But if you pivot it around this axis, maybe 15 degrees, then you get to where we are right now. And it's essentially a bear pennant turned sideways a little bit. But you use the extrapolation based on the market movement that went into the rising wedge, and then you extrapolate just like this. You pull from the very top of the movement down, as you can see right here, and then you extrapolate right down here to the bottom, the first bottom of the rising wedge, as you can see. So we're pretty much right on that. We don't have to be exact. This is not an exact game, but we want to be as close as we can. And then we move to the top side of the wedge. So some people have mistakenly done price targets like this, where they'll draw to the top like this and then come from the outside. That's going to give you a dramatically different price target than if you do this the correct way like this. You can see the large difference in price target that you're going to achieve. So you want to make sure that you're doing this appropriately. You do not want to measure from the outside, and then from the outside, you want to measure from the far side, if you will, of the pattern, and then from the far side, just like this. You measure from the On a falling wedge, you measure from the first bottom of the rising wedge of a rising wedge. You measure from the first bottom of the rising wedge, and then take the local top from the initial top, from the last top within the rising wedge, the most recent top within the rising wedge, as you can see here. That gives us a price target, as I said in the description, somewhere around $12,400 to $12,500. Again, it's not an exact science. In the description, I believe I wrote $12,470 because that's the level that it was showing me at the time. If you just come here and do this, for example, you can see that that'd be right about here. This was pretty much the price target, but we'll put it back to where it was. The price target here we can draw as about $12,500. The reason that that's so significant is because if you remember to yesterday's stream, the bottom here that we were looking at was $12,470. And in the description of today's stream, it reads, let's see, this drop could cause Bitcoin to fall as far as $12,470 is what I said. And that is a very important level because it lines up with this specific trend line, sideways support level right here at $12,479. It's basically the exact same level in the grand scheme of things. As you can see here, this has a lot to do with this top that was set on the 16th of August, 2020. It has a lot to do with this top that was set here on the 6th of August, 2019, almost exactly a year before. And then there's also some various trading and price action going on around 12,500 that took place back here in the latter part of 2017, early part of 2018, where the bull market was coming to its ultimate climax and conclusion. We saw some bottoms set here around $12,470 on the 24th of December and on the 31st of December, 2017. There's a local top set here in a very similar territory, maybe up to about 12.6 here on the 20th of January 2018, inauguration day. And then we had also top set right here at $11,700, which is a little bit lower, but it's still within the same region. So you can see there's a lot of there's a lot of price in play at $12,500. But the actual reason that we put the $12,500 region there is because if you look at the VPVR or the VRVP, TradingView renamed it and it confuses me every time I say the wrong thing. If you look at the VRVP, then you can see that $12,500 basically represents the beginning of this bulwark of support on the VRVP. There is a ton of trading that took place in between $6,000 and $12,500 during the years of 2018, 2019, and 2020. 3 years of trading took place within that time frame, and that's what we're looking at right now. Is that Bitcoin has witnessed a ton of trading in that territory, and it's unlikely that you would see Bitcoin go much farther below $12,500. But as we're going to look at today, we could have a very clear setup that $12,500 is actually still in the cards, and that's what we're going to be talking about. So, guys, let's just go to full screen really quickly. If you guys are enjoying today's stream, make sure to smash that like button. Let's see if we can get up to 300 likes before the end of the stream. Thank you so very much to all nearly 600 of you guys that are already watching. Shout out to Colin McDonald, a green name in chat. We got Shannon Sharp in chat as well. I'm buying Bitcoin now is a bargain. Tatusik Z84 Tego said. That's a gamer name and a half right there. Definitely, I think, a good time to buy Bitcoin. You might think, but Jebb, you just said Bitcoin could drop $4,000. What do you mean it's a good time to buy Bitcoin? Nothing's guaranteed. The best thing, in my opinion, to do is if you're sitting on money is to buy now and if it drops to $4,000. But I'm not your financial advisor. That's just my opinion and pretty much what I'm doing because we bought around this region, around 17,000 and then around 15,500. If it went down to 12, we've got half of our investment capital sitting on the sidelines waiting to drop into that market. Absolutely something that we're going to want to be keeping an eye on. CBD Suddy is here. What's up, man? He said, I missed green names. I'm here. Lol. Good morning. Good morning, my friend. Alrighty. Cool. Let's go ahead and dive right into that technical analysis then because we got a lot to cover. Right now, Bitcoin trading at $16,980. And the first thing I want to show you is that this symmetrical, this rising wedge is sitting in a very, very, very confirmed state. It's very difficult to look at this and not call this a rising wedge. We have 3 tops, as you can see here, here, and here, and then 3 bottoms here, here, and here, going back to the 18th of November. So this is a rising wedge that'll even show up on the daily chart with not quite as much fidelity and resolution as we would like, but it will show up there. And this is a pretty significant rising wedge because it pretty much encapsulates all of this price action following the FTX meltdown. Remember, FTX went down November 8th, 2022 at 11:03 a.m. when the legendary, now infamous Sam Bankman-Fried posted his tweet saying that FTX had gone insolvent. Again, that happened on November 18th at 11:03 a.m. Eastern Time. That lined up to about right here. Bitcoin was already in a drop, likely, in my opinion, due to the offloading of certain assets by FTX and also by a lot of short liquidations that took place over here, leading to a rally that should never have occurred, leading to long liquidations where people got over leveraged and over exuberant, that the bull market was back on. We were already going through a downwards movement. We had already witnessed Bitcoin drop below critical levels of support, such as the EQ cloud here on Lux Algo. We had already seen a sell signal come into play. We were already in the bullish reversal zone, the support reversal zone, in fact, and Lux Oscillator was already red. So we were already set up in a very bearish pattern. We were already probably going to $18,000 at least. And the reason I say that territory is because that is the local low that we were looking at over and over and over again for the past several months, was about $18,000. We set that 13th of October, 22nd of September. We set that 18th of June, roughly in that territory. That's probably where we were going, and we likely would have dropped down here to 15K anyway. Yes, you heard me right. Even if FTX didn't go under, I still think that we probably would have seen Bitcoin drop down to at least $16,000, even without FTX going bankrupt. But of course, it was doomed from the start because of the way it was run and by whom it was run. We're going to talk about Sam Bankman-Fried and his bad businessman strategy here in a little while, because I think he is trying to play you, to be honest, with the recent media tour he's been on. And it's absolutely remarkable that a month on and the guy's still not in custody waiting trial. Anyway, let's keep going here. Bitcoin went through this massive drop, and we are currently in a new landscape. But Lux Algo is what we need to be paying attention to. Of course, it is a wonderful technical indicator. We have other technical indicators that we look at, but Lux Algo is going to be very helpful for us. Today, you can see we went into a strong uptrend. The moment that we had this strong buy signal, boom, we rallied, blasted off. We broke through the EQ cloud. We even had the EQ cloud turn bullish right here on the 27th of November at 1100 hours. We were trading under this region, then we managed to break above it. This break to the upside happened after BlockFi filed for bankruptcy. So that was very interesting. We saw a rally just a couple of days later. I think BlockFi filed right over here around the 28th of November. 2022. We saw the strong buy signal. It got confirmed later. Of course, this is a very strong signal because by the time we hit the sell signal, even though it's not confirmed, about 4% to the upside. In grand total, we can see that Bitcoin would rally 6% on that buy signal. Wonderful signal, great signal. What we're looking at right now, though, is a potential reversal. We're not confirmed, but we do have a sell signal right here. Remember, guys, we don't want to just discredit a sell signal because it doesn't have trend catcher confirmation. We just want to be a little bit more skeptical with it. Remember the strategy. The strategy, if you're not familiar with Lux Algo, is use these signals here, as you can see, but then use the trend catcher right here to confirm or not confirm the signals. Over here, for example, these four signals did not have trend catcher confirmation, so we did not read a single one of them as far as looking into major trend reversal territory. Now, we almost broke below the EQ cloud right here, and then we did break below the EQ cloud right here. Both times we came very close, and we actually were breaking down towards lower lows before the FTX meltdown. Bitcoin was already about to go into a big drop before the FTX meltdown, and we covered that on the channel back then. But we could have used the preliminary signals to predict that. We saw a sell signal here. We saw that Bitcoin was starting to fall down into the trend catcher. If we look at the Lux Oscillator, we were already in red quite substantially. In fact, looking at other parts of Lux Algo, for example, we were having major reasons to be concerned about the state of that market. If we look here, we could see that there was a higher high, yes, but that we were sitting equivalent highs, and we were barely trading sideways here. And then over here, we set a higher high, but it was a weaker high. We barely set a higher high. We had a chalk down here that caused the market to drop very quickly. So Lux Algo was giving us a preliminary sign before the FTX disaster took place, and that's kind of what we're looking at right now. We're sitting on a knife's edge. We're sitting here waiting to see whether or not this sell signal will drop Bitcoin first into the EQ cloud, which could lead us down to $16,676, somewhere in that territory. We're waiting to see if it could lead us below the trend catcher, which is currently trading at $16,700. And ultimately, we're waiting to see if this could lead Bitcoin down here below the EQ cloud. But all of that takes place first by breaking bearish out of the rising wedge, which means that if we break down here to $16,700, we will have had a break of structure. we will have had a pretty major break to the downside. And even looking here on some of the Lux Algo technical indicators, we would be breaking below what it's showing here. And I'll just go ahead and hide all of my indicators. We would be breaking what it's showing in this rising wedge. You can see that Lux Algo itself is drawing a rising wedge. This blue and this red, that's Lux Algo drawing that. And that rising wedge is very important because it's being seen by a lot of different people. Now, regardless, another part of what I wanted to show you here would be Lux Algo price action concepts, which is actually the updated version of that technical indicator. You can see we have some volumetric support right here. This is very important because if we start breaking below that, then this green represents longs. There's going to be some long liquidation, some green volume getting knocked out, which could cause a shorter term long liquidation event, which could cascade the market back to the downside down to these levels down here where there's more volumetric support. And then, of course, also we can come in here and there's a ton of different indicators we can turn on. Patterns, for example. Let's just look at the patterns and see if this is calling for anything. You can see right now that we have a equal low. Looks like we're having a little bit of a glitch on there. Let's go ahead and turn that off. Turn off the patterns and see if that will fix it. You can see that there is an equal low that's forming right here. If we break below that equal low, then what Lux Algo is going to call that is something called a chalk, a change of character, and that will be a break to the downside that we're going to want to pay very close attention to. So those are just multiple different reasons why I'm paying very close attention to Bitcoin right now. But remember, if Bitcoin does break to the downside, it has a technical price target down here at $12,450 to $470, somewhere in that region. Now, it is possible that Bitcoin could break bearish out of this rising wedge and just break down to the current local level, sitting at $15,500. And dare I say that might even be likely. But the problem that I'm running into with that theorem is that when we managed to break local resistance, which was sitting here at $17,700, we didn't really do a whole lot with it. When we managed to break above the local resistance here, I mean, we just barely broke above it at 17,173. What did we do? We just barely put a dent in it. And now, if we break to the downside, just over the next few hours, this 4-hourly chart, before the trading day is over. Now, we don't have trading days in Bitcoin, but you know what I'm talking about. In the next 8 hours, if we break below this uptrend, that could be catastrophic for the price of Bitcoin in the short term. So, if you're a trader and you're looking at this as a trade setup, what do? The first thing I would say is look at the other potential levels that Bitcoin would need to break to really confirm something. You want to look at as many confirmations as possible. First and foremost, there is a possibility that if Bitcoin does break to the downside, it could reestablish the rising wedge based on this low right here because we are actually intersecting the lows here. That means that Bitcoin could potentially, in theory, drop as low as $16,700 and still theoretically, again, be within this rising wedge. That would also be the support that we're looking at here on the trend catcher right here. It's basically the exact same level as you can see. Bitcoin could theoretically drop down to $16,700 and not have confirmed this break to the downside because not only would it still be under a buy signal, we would not have had trend catcher confirmed buy signal. We would not have had trend catcher to confirm this sell signal yet. We would also still be on the inside of the EQ cloud, and we'd still be above the trend catcher. If, on the other hand, we break below the trend catcher, we break below the EQ cloud, trend catcher turns red, we get a confirmed sell signal, and we start breaking down here to, I'd say a trigger level would probably be right here around $16,500, then you can start to bet that the market's going to have a fall to the downside. And that actually makes sense too, because I didn't even realize this, but I just drew this trend line. I'm like, you know what, that probably lines up with VRVP. So looking here at VRVP, you can see that gives us a point of control here around $16,500. The point of control is the point of control around which the bulls and the bears are fighting. So it's very important that we pay attention to the point of control because right now when we're above it, we're in bullish territory. But if we start to break below the point of control right here around 16.5, then that could lead to a cascading event that would drop Bitcoin quite substantially. Now, the sell price target is only here at $16,300, so you could be missing the majority of the market movement if you do this, if you follow this trend this way. So what I would look into if you were trading this, potentially look to enter a very small short position, maybe no more than 2 or 3x leverage here because you could very easily get backed out of this if Bitcoin just chooses a different level of support. Maybe get a very short window. I'm talking just a few hour trade right here when we would initially break below the current uptrend on that level. Let me just take away the indicator so you can see a little bit better. When we would initially break below this uptrend right here. Then, if we broke below this uptrend and the VRVP, excuse me, not the VRVP, and the bottom of the EQ cloud and the trend catcher, then you could potentially enter a short trade starting around $16,700, dropping down to $16,500. From there, and this would be where I'd really start to look at actual, like, proper trades, because you start to have a lot more trend confirmation. From there, if we break below the point of control on the VRVP around $16,500, then maybe around $16,450, you could enter a third short trade and then ride that all the way down here to this VAL, the VAL being on the VRVP, which currently sits around $16,000. That'd be about a $500 movement that you could short and you could do very well with. The tricky thing is that we do technically have higher lows, so you're technically betting against a trend if you're shorting. If you really wanted to be conservative, you could wait until we drop below $16,000 and short our way down to $15,500, and then you could enter another short trade if we drop down below $15,500 and just ride it as long as you want based on the current market structure and market conditions at that time. So those are just a few different scenarios that you could play out. I would be careful about playing this as just one massive short trade where the moment we break below this uptrend, we just short all the way down to 15.5, because there's a lot of different levels and confirmation in here dotting this region. Again, 16,000, 16.5, 16.7, and our current level. Bitcoin comes down and it bounces more than likely off of all of those before dropping to the downside. You're not, in my opinion, just going to see a boom, straight shot down to $12,000. If we do go down there, we do actually have some support and some market structure built. However, this is going to be something that you need to pay attention to, not only on the technical side of things, but also on the volumetric side of things, watching to where the volume is. You're also going to want to be looking at things like the liquidations. Charts over here on coinglass.com/liquidation data. See what the liquidations are doing. Are a lot of people getting liquidated out of shorts? Or a lot of people getting liquidated out of longs? Are people getting liquidated at all? You're going to want to pay attention to data like that. So if you're trying to trade that, hopefully that was some helpful tips and tricks for how to go about trading that market movement. Again, it's possible that Bitcoin doesn't break to the downside in a major significant way. But right now, based on what I'm seeing on Lux Algo, what I'm seeing with the with RSI, MACD trend lines, and a lot of different factors, including Lux Oscillator, and of course the rising wedge, we can't forget that. I do believe you're going to see a drop to the downside with a greater than 50% likelihood over the next few days. And in doing so, we're going to be able to see Bitcoin. We're going to be able to see Bitcoin test that support and see what's actually going to be able to be strong and held, or what's going to be able to, actually be, what levels of support are going to be lost. All right, let's go ahead and read some chat here for just a second. Second day on stream with no coffee. I've got some water. I'm trying to stay hydrated. So, is anybody on this journey with me of not having any coffee? Oh, no. Freedom Advocate said, my money was stolen by thieves, and I was stubborn and reinvested, and now I'm paying for my patience, and the volatility is shaking my very core. Oh, man, I'm sorry. He said down here, I never held my coins. I traded all the way down. I bought an entire BTC at 21.8. I have ETH and ADA bought at low prices. I was one of the few in this channel that didn't hodl. He said, I got hacked and lost my entire portfolio. Oh, man. Lord be with him. That sucks. I'm really sorry. Yeah, I mean, I know what you're going through. I have lost, over the course of trading, business decisions, hundreds of thousands of dollars in my career. And every dollar I've ever lost, I've normally made back. But even if I haven't, they've all carried lessons with me. They've all given lessons to me and helped me to learn something. And, there have been decisions I've made that have cost tens of thousands of dollars before, and they were not smart business decisions. I would do them for one reason or another. Either I was trying to be generous, or I was, I was ignorant and made a bad move. But that's part of the game. And so, Freedom Advocate, I just want you to know, first of all, your Heavenly Father sees you and He loves you and He wants you to put Him first above your money. But secondly, losing money is part of the path to making money. This is kind of cliche, so I'm not saying anything original here, but it might be helpful. People talk a lot about Thomas Edison, about how he had to fail 10,000 times before he got it right once. If you don't know the story, Thomas Edison invented the tungsten filament incandescent light bulb. revolutionized society. And he had to go through all kinds of different filament options to get there. He tried papyrus. He tried wood. He tried, steel, iron. I think he tried aluminum. He tried all kinds of different things for the filament. Now, remember, an incandescent light bulb has the two posts right here, and then it has the filament right between them that glows red hot, or glows hot anyway, the kind of classical yellow hot. The only thing that was able to withstand that temperature was tungsten. Took him forever to figure that out. They didn't know everything they know about elements now. It wasn't that simple. This is 150 years ago almost. So he had to fail over and over and over and over and over again. The legend, the myth of it says that he tried 1,000 different filaments before he finally got one right. Was it a mistake that he failed all those times? No, it was part of the process. And that's what was the most important thing, was that he continued. He didn't stop after he failed because he realized that failure was part of the process. And sometimes we make mistakes that we shouldn't have. In fact, every time we make a mistake, we're making a mistake that we shouldn't have, because that's in the very definition of a mistake. But it is something that you can learn from and you can move forward from, because we can only move forward from where we are right now. Shvango Lays in chat said, wish I could stay here today, maybe another day. Sending lots of love to this amazing community and best of Jebb. Thank you so much, Shavong. And guys, be praying for Freedom Advocate. Really sorry to hear that. Guys, just show him some love. And remember, keep our eyes on the Lord, and then the money needs to come well after that. Because ultimately, if you have God, you have all you need. JoJo's in chat. Crypto Mini Bikes in chat. Colin McDonald said, lesson learned the hard way, but still learned, I hope. Whether you lose $5 or $5 million, you learn a lesson either way. I've learned lessons that cost me $5. I've learned lessons that cost me $100,000. I know what it's like. Been there, done that, got the postcard. It's not fun, but it's part of it. You're going to be okay, I hope. And if not, make sure to, reach out to the community here. Anyway, let's go ahead and keep moving. We're going to read some news. One of the first pieces of news that we're going to read has to do with technicals. This will be a good transition into our news segment portion of the show. And we're going to wrap it out by reading a little bit about Sam Bankman-Fried, because I know you guys want a little bit of a narrative on him. We're going to talk about him in a second. Of course, he is the most famous person in crypto right now, not for the right reasons, of course. We'll get to that. Bitcoin 2022 bear market unusual despite key trend line loss, says analyst. On-chain data shows BTC price holdings holding its historical trend, and the 200-week moving average is a poor way to assess the Bitcoin bull market. Superswell says. So this is a technical indicator. This is a technical analysis article over here on Cointelegraph. Basically, what they're getting at is the 200 moving average on the weekly chart has been breached. It was breached back in May. We've been below that moving average for quite some time. I can show you that over on the chart. We just bring up our moving averages right here. Not the code. Come into the style. I'll show you guys the 200, and you'll see what it is that they're talking about here. We've been below the 200 moving average here ever since June. I said May, excuse me. It was beginning of June that we dropped below the 200 moving average. And that doesn't normally happen, because looking back on the previous bull market cycles, we've stayed above the 200 moving average, or we dropped below for just a week during the pandemic. That's not what's happening right now. So that's the point of concern that they're bringing up here. But Superswell highlighted, talked a lot about in this article. I'm going to kind of paraphrase this just because I want to mainly look at the charts here, but basically paraphrased and said, look, this is a different market than what we've seen in the past bull and bear markets, and this is not something that we need to be concerned about, because there are a lot of on-chain pieces of data that are giving us a lot of hope, and some of those are going to be looked at right down here. Just take a look at this. This has to do with a percentage of transfer volume in profit. So this is movement of money and cryptocurrency around in the cryptocurrency space, and you can see that there is this general decline whenever the market is bottoming out. And whenever we're starting to get towards the bottom, you see these lower lows come down and down and down. Now, the interesting thing is that we had already had a lot of wipeout in this at the beginning of 2021, indicating that a lot of people were not in profit. A lot of movement of money took place in the beginning of 2021 that wiped out certain people's profits, because those profits were realized, which means that more people were taking losses, moving up to this second top, or the infamous double top up at $69,000. So less people were in profit, more people were at a loss, even at that high. Obviously not at the exact high, but as we started to come down, people got into loss much quicker because they bought higher, is normally what this indicates, which means that we were already at a very low point. So what this means is that at some point, when we bottom out on this trend line right here, we will bounce and we will break these higher highs these lower highs, and we will move into the uptrend. That has not happened yet, but that is something to keep an eye on because it could happen very soon, and it would be a macro regime shift, as they say. I think that would be accurate. Here you can also see the Bitcoin realized profit and loss ratio. You can see it's sitting at an all-time low in realized profit and loss ratio. Basically, that means that when people are realizing their losses, realizing their gains and or losses, they're losing a lot of money. So this is really important because this indicates that the market bottom is very close, because so many people are at a loss that as they're selling and getting out of the space, that money is being recycled into the hands of people that are buying the Bitcoin asset from those sellers that are losing their money. What does that mean? Well, that basically tells us that when people are selling at a loss down at these regions, otherwise known as realizing the profit and or loss, those people are realizing the loss, selling it to other people, meaning that the market resets. And that Bitcoin that is being transacted resets from being at a loss to having the ability to be in a gain. Because those Bitcoin that are being sold may have been bought originally at $40,000, $37,000, $57,000, whatever. But now when they're being sold, of course, they're being bought again, but this time they're being bought at $17,000, which makes it much easier for those Bitcoin to be in profit than they would have been otherwise. Moving on here, let's take a look back at the screen. Yes, so basically what I wanted to point out here is that you combine these two in conjunction and you get an idea of where the market is right now. A lot of people that were at a loss that bought up at $30,000, $27,000, whatever, if they're going to sell, they're selling right now. And yes, they're losing a lot of money, but they're also giving great buys and great entry to other people. Essentially, what you're seeing is a recycling of Bitcoin down here at these levels that we currently find ourselves at, where people that bought at $37,000 are selling, and now the same Bitcoin is being bought at $17,000, meaning that they have a lower cost basis, meaning that it's much easier for those Bitcoin to be in profit, meaning that there are less bears, because if you have a buy-in, at 17K, you're probably going to be a lot more bullish on Bitcoin than if you bought at $48,000. So we're getting that average cost basis for Bitcoin down, which makes it a lot easier for the new market that's being recycled into to stomach the idea of the market going to the upside or even going down a little bit, because it's a lot easier to stomach Bitcoin going down to $12,000 if you bought in at $17,000 than it is to stomach Bitcoin going down to $12,000 if you bought in at $48,000. So as they're selling at that very, very large loss, a lot of people are selling at the loss. That indicates a ton of recycling taking place down here, where people are buying at new lower levels, where they are now in a position to be more bullish than the people that they were buying the Bitcoin from. Hopefully that makes sense. It's very important. All right, let's move on over here to this article. Goldman Sachs reportedly looking to buy crypto firms after FTX collapse. Interesting. Goldman Sachs executive Matthew McDermott said that their firm is already doing its due diligence on some crypto firms. I don't think it says here which ones, but following the FTX debacle, Goldman is looking at getting into the cryptocurrency industry, and they're currently doing their due diligence right now. That's pretty much all you need to know in this article. You can pause and read this if you want, but we can keep moving here for the sake of time. Now, this is actually very important and a little bit opposite of what we were expecting from none other than Rishi Sunak. Unfortunately, we have a UK crypto bill to restrict services from abroad, says report. The regulatory amendments will broaden the powers of the country's financial regulator and put the crypto industry under tighter scrutiny in the United Kingdom than it already is. Big government does not work. Full stop. There does need to be some more regulation in cryptocurrency, but it doesn't need to be necessarily of this kind. Despite the Conservative Party's rhetorical embracement of crypto, that being the way they're speaking, embracing crypto, under the new Prime Minister Rishi Sunak, who has spoken very positively of crypto, who used to be in charge of the country's finances and now is the Prime Minister, the upcoming regulatory framework will reportedly tighten scrutiny over the industry. The legislation updates will broaden the powers of the financial regulator and probably limit foreign companies' operation in the United Kingdom. This could be the beginning of what would look like a South Korea-style move, where if you're going to trade in South Korea on a South Korean exchange, first of all, the Korean exchanges have to be set up specifically for South Korea, but also You can't do it unless you have the equivalent of a South Korean social security number, which basically limits your ability to work in the cryptocurrency space within only companies and exchanges and whatnot that are set up in the nation of South Korea. So that could be the beginning of what we're seeing here in the United Kingdom. Hopefully not, because that would obviously be very difficult for people that are in the cryptocurrency space in the United Kingdom, because there are plenty of services that will probably not make it through these new set of regulations and that have already not made it through their current set of regulations. According to a Financial Times report, the FTX collapse has influenced the course of the regulatory regime in the United Kingdom, which makes sense. This could be one of the earlier signs of the times of what's going on post Sam Bankman-Fried's, putting his fist in his mouth and just messing everything up. The Treasury is finalizing a package of guidelines that will enable the Financial Conduct Authority to monitor the operations and advertising of crypto companies in the country. There will also be restrictions on selling crypto in the United Kingdom market from abroad. Though the report doesn't reveal more specifics on those restrictions, assumably they'd be enforced to enforce companies to register with the FCA. The procedure is tough enough already, as 85% of the applicants did not pass the FCA's anti-money laundering tests, according to its chief executive, Nikhil Rati. I think I got that right. Who knows? If you're from the kingdom, let me know if I got that right. The guidelines are being prepared as a part of the Financial Services and Markets Bill. The larger bill, which includes but is not limited to crypto regulation, has already been introduced to the British Parliament, while the United Kingdom launched its consultation on crypto in 2021. According to FT sources, it could slip into 2023 due to fast-moving events in the industry, namely FTX. However, on December 7th, the Cross-Party Treasury Committee will hear out the experts from the FCA and Bank of England on the risks of crypto and the pros and cons of central bank-issued cryptocurrencies. That is the biggest oxymoron I've heard since Jumbo Shrimp. Central bank-issued cryptocurrency. Right. That is not a... I'm surprised that Cointelegraph would write a central bank issued cryptocurrency and call it a CBDC, because that's not what a CBDC is. Anyway, I could go all day about why CBDCs are not cryptocurrencies, but regardless, we'll keep moving. The hearing will also include talks of the investigative journalist who covered the investments made by British football fans under the influence of crypto ads. Yada, 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 et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Basically, there's more regulation coming to the United Kingdom, and it could make it very difficult for people in the United Kingdom to do business in cryptocurrency with people and exchanges and services that are outside of the United Kingdom. Of course, we see some of this taking place in the United States, where you have FTX, and then you have FTX.US. You have Binance, then you have Binance.US. You have similar events like that. But ultimately, guys, we're going to have to learn how to operate in this new regulatory world, because there is more regulation going to come down in cryptocurrency post FTX. It's just going to happen. I don't think it's going to be as much as people have been worried about, but there is going to be a lot of it. Let's keep moving here, because Strike and Jack Mallers have some things to say in Africa. Strike partners with BitNob to facilitate cross-border payments into Africa. This is a big deal. It's actually a really big deal. On stage at Afro Bitcoin, Strike CEO Jack Mallers announced plans to improve remittance payments into Africa thanks to the Lightning Network on Bitcoin. The Lightning Network has struck Ghana, Kenya, and Nigeria. During a conference in Ghana, Strike CEO Jack Mallers announced that the Bitcoin payments company has partnered with the mobile app BitNob to facilitate payments into Africa. Mallers made the announcement on stage at Afro Bitcoin, a Bitcoin conference in Ghana's capital of Accra. He stood alongside Bernard Farah, the Nigerian CEO of BitNob, following a short presentation on how it works. Money transfers into Africa take advantage of the Lightning Network, Layer 2 payments network built atop Bitcoin. The feature is called Send Globally and enables instant low-cost payments to Africa. The reason this is important appears later on here in the article. The feature does not require people to use Bitcoin themselves, BitNob CEO Bernard Parra explained on stage. The no transaction fee feature is currently available to Africans in Nigeria, Ghana, and Kenya. By comparison, remittance services such as Wise take a small commission, while Western Union can charge upwards of 10% for money transfers, which are very, very important, because in Africa and in a lot of the nations in Africa, they receive remittances from people in the United States or in Europe, where money is being sent back to Africa. Solving cross-border payments into Africa using Bitcoin would be a major boost to local economies. In Nigeria alone, $17.2 billion was sent in remittances to the country. Again, that's to the country in 2020. However, according to the World Bank, for every $200 sent in 2020, it cost the sender $17.80, almost 9%. That equates to roughly $1.5 billion lost in fees, or roughly the GDP of Samoa. If we look up the GDP of Nigeria, just to give you perspective, the Nigerian GDP looks to be about 440 billion US dollars. Is that right? Really? I don't know if that's right. Anyway, wow. Okay. The GDP of Nigeria was worth about $440 billion in 2021. That's surprising. I did not realize that that was that high. Anyway, $440 billion in 2021. And as you can see in the article over here, they've spent $1.5 billion in fees. So we're talking almost 0.5% of their entire GDP going to the likes of Western Union and other companies that charge all these massive fees on remittances. It's a completely broken system, and it is costing Nigeria and many other nations a ton of money. Ghana and Kenya also, of course, being some of those. The unfortunate thing is that there's not a lot of solutions to this other than Bitcoin. We've seen this take place in El Salvador to great effect. We've seen this take place in many other nations to great effect. And I hope that this will be a solution for the citizens of Kenya, of the other two nations, Nigeria and Ghana, to help them reduce those cross-border payments and basically keep more of their money. That would be wonderful. That's what we want, is people having control over their money rather than having some dude come in named Western Union and say, you're giving me 10% of that. The problem is that Western Union and the systems that it utilizes are extremely cumbersome, extremely difficult to utilize, and very expensive. And also, Western Union, quite frankly, wants to make a lot of profit. So they can charge whatever they want because they're one of the only merchants that allow this kind of thing in and out of the nation. There's a monopoly on remittances going into impoverished nations and developing nations. And these are developing nations, by the way. Ghana, Kenya, Nigeria, these nations are growing fast. They're growing very fast. They're some of the highest growth rate places in the world. But they still do receive a lot of help from outside nations. And so why wouldn't Bitcoin come in and help to solve that problem? People think that crypto has no solution. Ask a citizen of Kenya or Nigeria if this is going to be helpful for them. They're going to say yeah, so that they can actually keep more of the money that's being sent to them or that they're sending out. Very, very important development. Let's go ahead and read chat here for a couple of minutes, and then we're going to talk about none other than Sam Bankman-Fried. Of course, we're going to talk about him. Very, 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 very important things. Nigeria is one of the largest economies in Africa. I knew that. I did not realize that it had grown that much. This is exactly why the U.S. wants to keep it. Yes, exactly. Jebb, what's the safest option to keep your crypto as far as stablecoins? I would think USDC. I don't currently hold any money in stablecoins though, so I couldn't tell you. I tend to do the most research on the cryptos that I'm using. I don't typically use a stablecoin except for a brief period of time. My assets are held in the actual cryptocurrencies that I want to be invested in themselves, or I just hold in US dollars. Let's see. Goldman Sachs release, how big in VPN Ledger? No guff will stop me buying. Litecoin year 2023, Proverbs 15:3. Not sure how that has to do with Proverbs 15:3, but I'll look into that. I was just memorizing a verse from Proverbs. Proverbs 15:3. The eyes of the Lord are in every place. Behold the evil and the good. Amen. Amen. Jebb, I thought FTX didn't even have any Bitcoin, Lamau. Yeah, no, that's the thing, is that they didn't at November 10th. We don't know if they didn't before that. Freedom Advocate said, I'm positive about so many things, just not about my crypto portfolio. Fair enough. I mean, yeah, I get it. Is Jesus Christ everywhere? Yes, he is. Let's see. Please show us your Lux algo settings one more time. I restored my faith in Jesus Christ, and that helped me to stay positive. Amen, brother. He loves you. All right. Yes, I will show you that, and then we're going to talk a little bit about FTX and Sam Bankman-Fried and the quote-unquote legal defense he's trying to put up and try and not be, public enemy number one in crypto's eyes. These are my settings. Signal sensitivity on 12. Confirmation signals agility on 26. I have the reversal zone trend catcher and EQ cloud on right now. Confirmations are simple on candle coloring. And that's pretty much it. We have TPSL points on, and the sensitivity is set to 5 here. And confirmations plus exits. So, boom, there you go on that. Now, the thing that I want to jump into is this article. This article came out yesterday. I read it yesterday, but I want to throw it in here. It's very, 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 very interesting article. Sam Bankman-Fried could face years in prison over FTX's $32 billion meltdown if the U.S. ever gets around to arresting him. Very curious to me that the guy's still not in jail after the month that FTX has been belly up for. Definitely a problem, in my opinion. Sam Bankman-Fried, the disgraced former CEO of FTX, the bankrupt crypto exchange, blah, 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 has a real knack for self-promotional PR. For years, he cast himself in the likeness of a young boy genius turned business titan, capable of miraculously growing his crypto empire as other players got wiped out. Everyone from Silicon Valley's top venture capitalists to A-list celebrities bought the act. But during Bankman-Fried's press junket over the past few weeks, the one-time wonderkind has spun a new narrative, one in which he was simply an inexperienced and novice businessman who was out of his depth, didn't know what he was doing, and crucially, didn't know what was happening at the businesses he founded. It is quite the departure from the image he had carefully cultivated since launching his crypto firm in 2017. And according to former federal prosecutors, trial attorneys, and legal experts speaking to CNBC, it recalls a classic legal defense dubbed the bad businessman strategy. I didn't know any better. I didn't mean to commit fraud. I didn't knowingly do any of this. At least $8 billion in customer funds are missing, reportedly using to backstop losses. Billions in losses at Alameda Research, the hedge fund he also founded. Both of his companies are now bankrupt with billions of dollars worth of debt on the books. The CEO tapped to take over, John Ray III, said in his 40 years of legal and restructuring experience, he had never, this is a quote that is rang around the world. He has said this, and people keep quoting John Ray on this. Such a complete failure of corporate controls and such a complete absence of trustworthy financial information as occurred here. He has never seen it. This is the same Ray who presided over Enron's liquidation of the 2000s. In America, it is not a crime to be a lousy or careless CEO with poor judgment. During his recent press tour from a remote location in the Bahamas, Bankman-Fried really leaned into his own ineptitude, largely blaming FTX's collapse on poor risk management. At least a dozen times in an interview with Andrew Ross Sorkin, he appeared to deflect blame to Carolyn Ellison, his counterpart and one-time girlfriend at Alameda. He says he didn't know how extremely leveraged Alameda was and that he just didn't know a lot of things about what was going on in his vast empire. He said he had a bad month, but denied committing fraud at his crypto exchange. Oh, man. It sure looks like there's a chargeable fraud case here, said Marietti. If I represented Mr. Bankman-Fried, I would tell him he should be very concerned about prison time, that it should be an overriding concern for him. But for the moment, Bankman-Fried appears unconcerned with his personal legal exposure. When Sorkin asked him if he was concerned about criminal liability, he demurred, I don't think that, obviously. I don't personally think that I have. I think that the real reason is it's not. It sounds really weird to say, but I think the real answer is that it's not what I'm focusing on. There's going to be a time and a place for me to think about myself, my own future, but I don't think this is it. Basically, he's trying to say, hey, I'm not thinking about myself right now. I'm trying to get as much money back to people as possible. I don't have time to go through this whole article. We're running out of time here. Definitely an interesting one. I would highly recommend reading it. Sam Bankman-Fried could face years in prison over FTX's $32 billion meltdown if the U.S. ever gets around to arresting him. It's over on CNBC. The thing that's so interesting to me here is that, as the article said, Sam Bankman-Fried tried for years and succeeded for years in convincing everybody that he knew exactly what he was doing, that he was a genius, that he built this massive crypto empire out of nothing. Went so far as to propose what kind of regulation the cryptocurrency industry should adopt so that it can self-regulate. He posted some decent ideas. Most of them were strange, and people definitely didn't like them. Ideas about regulation. He proposed solutions for exchange hacks just weeks before FTX went under. He was proposing a litany of different ideas about how we could self-govern and self-regulate the industry such that we would not have to deal with as many of the hacks that we were facing. And then FTX implodes. We did a stream on Friday. I believe it was on Friday. You can go back and watch it where I quoted him verbatim. Let me just go read the title because the title has the quote in it of that stream. He said, let me find the video, the stream. Sam Bankman-Fried said, quote, and this is a verbatim direct quote you can see from the stream on Friday, I wasn't spending any time or effort trying to manage risk. That is a verbatim direct quote. That is negligence in a criminal degree. That Sam Bankman-Fried was not paying any attention to risk, that there was no risk management over the company whatsoever. And it does seem to be fraud. I am not a criminal defense prosecutor or attorney or anything of that kind, so I want to be careful when I say that something is or is not a crime because technically I don't fully know. I am not a prosecuting attorney. I do not know all of the ins and outs of it. It's possible I could be totally off base. It certainly looks like crime to me. Whether or not it is a horrible thing. And we need to make sure that we are being very careful in the future, because this industry is so important to the future of humankind. So important. Because financial sovereignty is one of the greatest ways to liberate the individual and allow for that individual to pursue what they feel that they are called to do. By God, that takes finances. And if we have no financial sovereignty whatsoever in our systems, this is a fight worth fighting. We have no financial sovereignty whatsoever, then we lose the ability to utilize Bitcoin and crypto for what it was created for. And cons, like Sam Bankman-Fried, make that a lot harder, because it brings the entire industry under a lot more government scrutiny, a whole lot more. The fact is, Sam Bankman-Fried screwed up. And whether or not he had intent, whether or not he knew, whether or not he actually was a bad businessman, and whether or not he's adopting the bad businessman strategy, what happened here must never happen again. And we must demand the reserve data for these exchanges to be made public, and for them to prove to us, not just say it, but prove to us, I understand trusting, but verify, that they actually do hold your currency in the way that they say they do. And also make sure to embrace private custody as much as humanly possible. He did know he killed out projects on the chain. He did work with the SEC. Yeah, he knew what he was doing. He went to prestigious colleges, yet didn't know what he was doing. Speaks volumes about that. He also worked at Jane Street. Those guys are wicked good. He knew what he was doing. I thought SBF was a drug addict when he said I have had a rough month. I don't know. Yep. All right, guys. Well, if you enjoyed today's video, make sure to go ahead and smash that like button. Make sure to hit that post notification bell so you will not miss a single stream. And I really appreciate all of you guys tuning in. Make sure to follow us on all of our social media. You can find the links for that down below. And also make sure to sign up for Lux Algo. You can find the link for that down below. Also use coupon code Jebb, J-E-B-B, for 20% off at checkout. Before I go, though, guys, I do just first want to thank each and every single last one of you for watching, as always. And I will see you guys in the next video. Peace. Boom. Is he gonna do it?